Welcome to Supercharge Your Soul Transformation Podcast. I am your host, Dimple Bindra. And today we are thrilled to introduce a remarkable therapist with over 14 years of experience in transforming lives, balancing a demanding career with being a single parent at age 32. Our guest not only earned multiple degrees, but also completed a second master's in marriage and family therapy at the age of 50. And their journey is a powerful example of resilience and dedication. So get ready for an inspiring conversation full of wisdom and empowering insights. Let's give a warm welcome to our incredible guest, Shari Mosley. Welcome to the show, Shari.
Thank you so much for having me, Dimple. It's an honor to be here.
I am so happy that you're here because you are such an inspiring woman. You have inspired so many people, and your story is really, really inspirational to me, especially because you have achieved so much, like multiple degrees. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how you did that, but even getting a single degree is so hard for people. But I would love to know, in your own words and through your personal journey, how
Yes.
would you define, and this is being authentic, because you're super authentic, when I spoke to you the first day, I'm like, damn, she just comes across like as this pure, honest, authentic being. So
Thank
how
you.
would you define authentic self?
Oh, thank you for asking. And you are so correct. I attempt in every engagement, in every situation to be authentic. And basically, when I break that word down to me, because everybody has their own, but there's probably one natural version of being authentic or being of authenticity, showing that, describing it. So for me, it's being real first with self, and then showing up being real for others and with others. So what I tend to do is that when my mind is saying, you need to be more of this or more of that, because you might be in the presence of those that have more or have more degrees or have more money, then I feel my mind sometimes says, oh, put this air on. But then when I check back in my mind and in myself, Shari, you already rich. You're rich from within. That's that authenticity. That's realness. That's that just being me, showing up for me.
Awesome. So, Shari, I'm curious, what
Mhm.
was that moment in your life when you realized the importance of being really true to yourself?
Oh my goodness. As a child, I had medical conditions that I found myself from child to teenager, a young adult, not being able to be myself because of what others thought about me due to my the eczema, sorry, that the rash. I don't even like saying it because it was so tumultuous. It was like people saw just my skin and couldn't see within who I really was. So I had to pretend, I had to fit in. I medicated away those abuses that I had endured. So today, as a wiser, more mature, seasoned woman, I can reflect back on that time, and I have made peace with that little girl named Shari. Today is okay. I don't regret the past on anything I've done. I don't shut the door on it. I bring it into fruition that I'm moving forward and that my life has blossomed past that, and that today I can be me. I can fit in anywhere being me. And I can just show people that, yes, we all have had struggles in our life, but what it is about overcoming, processing, and seeing, well, okay, now I can be that authentic self that as a child or as a teenager, I could never be. So just being, loving me, loving self, accepting the past, and showing self that it's okay now. You're free. You have peace.
Wow. So you're basically saying that people who really want to get onto this path of
Yes.
being authentic, need to
Yes.
simply accept their past
Accept the past.
and then tell their inner child, right,
Yes.
that, hey, it's okay. Whatever has happened to you has happened to you. But
Mhm.
now you are a different
Mhm.
person,
Yes,
right?
we've learned some things growing and struggling and being challenged with whatever is thrown at us. As a female, especially a Black female, being the lowest on the American society totem pole, however you want to see it, but that's all external stuff. So as a Black woman that has that strength and has that motivation, self-motivation, self-propelling into the areas that things I want to do, there's no boundaries, there's no limitations unless I say that there's limits and boundaries. And what I've gone through, and this is the other piece of having, say that, and this is spiritual, having not a good early rain. So there's the early rain and then there's the latter rain. I'm living my life in the latter rain, which is the best, but having to know that whatever has happened in my life, and it's just not even being a wife of a man that married another woman while we were married. So even that at the age of 30 something threw me for a loop, but it also taught me no matter what, as you said, being resilient, being stronger in the face of serious adversity and keeping moving towards my goal of loving me, caring for my daughter, and doing those things that have already been put in me, which is to become a therapist.
Wow. Okay. So I know you kind of touched based on a little bit on your story about that, but I
Just a
would,
little bit, yeah.
if it's okay with you,
Oh,
Shari,
absolutely.
we would love to know, and I would love to know, what
Uh-huh.
were your first steps and challenges that really made you feel like, okay, these are my challenges, and I'm not being me, and these are my stories, and I'm probably repeating those stories again and again in my head, which is not serving me. And you talked about your marriage,
Yes.
talked
Oh,
about your ex-husband.
pardon me?
Is it your ex-husband that got
My
married to another
ex, yes.
woman?
Oh, okay. So that was a really turning point because again, now I'm in my 30s. Now I've decided, okay, I want, because traditionally my family, you don't have any children till you're married. So
Mhm.
got married and I knew the gentleman for almost a year and, we were always together and appeared to be the perfect man, the perfect husband. And we got married, beautiful wedding. Oh, very beautiful wedding. And my family was so happy for me. And within a year, um, I found out that he was cheating, and our daughter was a year and a half. And I worked for the phone company. And so you had some benefits at the phone company that probably are not to be talked about, but you could find out information. And
Mhm.
so, it got to the point where, I was like, because I was always the type of person, I'm going to take care of first things first. So we talked, we talked, we talked, we talked. Oh, okay, no, I'm not going to do this again. But he did continue, but being a little bit more sneakier. Again,
Mhm.
I found out. And so we separated. And then one particular morning, Saturday morning, I will remember this, and this is over. My daughter's 34. So remember, she's a year and a half. So that's over 32 years ago. And I remember it just like it was yesterday. I
Wow.
had moved in with my mom and dad. My mom and dad said, well, come back to stay here. And when he get it together, if you guys decide to get back, that's fine. So I received, his name was S. Mosley and mine is S. Mosley. And I got this letter, only one, on a Saturday morning. My mom said, oh, you got some mail. I opened it up, Dimple, and it was a newsletter because him and his mistress were both from Mississippi from their college, and they had started he didn't, but an alumni association. So they had meetings, they had parties, they had things. And so the letter was from that. It was their monthly newsletter. And on that day, they were having the meeting at guess whose house? Their house, because he had lied saying he had his own apartment and was checking in with us every night. We're going to get back together. Let's just take this break. So as I was reading the letter, it said, congratulations to to him and her.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
That
So
sucks.
my mom, being the strength, she said, you know what to do. My daddy was really upset because he would come over and read the Bible with my dad, 'cause coming from a very spiritual and religious family. And I called my girlfriend who told me never to marry him. And she said, let's go up there. I said, and I really, because I was so hurt, I wanted to you just really hurt him. But something tapped me on the side and said, don't go, don't go. And I've always listened to that voice inside, even as a child. And I said, oh, this was a struggle because I really wanted to go show him, right? And then
Mhm.
some said, well, if you go, you may not come back. And who's going to take care of your daughter? Because she's only
Wow.
like a year and a half. So I called my girlfriend. I said, no, girl, let's let this one go. I said, I'm gonna get him another way. So anyway, what ended up happening, I because the phone number and the address was on there. So I called her and we
Mm.
spoke. Oh, yes. And we spoke. And so she tried to act like she didn't know who I was. So when I started describing him and describing my other car that he had, because he didn't have a car. And then all of a sudden it became real. So the bottom line is I let her know this is the situation. And she flipped and gave me all the information where they were married, that she was 30 days pregnant, everything.
Oh.
And I, of course, checked it out and it was all accurate. And I told her to tell him to call me when he got home. And he did. And I let him know that bigamy is a crime. And I had already called the police. And if you don't want to go to jail, this is what I want. And he was,
Wow.
oh, yeah. So I made some stipulations. He came through within a year later. Well, 6 months we were divorced. But he chose not to have a relationship with our daughter. And that's the only piece. And I tried to work it out and he never did. And he remarried her and moved his family out of the state. And then, but what he did do, because he would every now and then check in. So when she graduated from high school, he came, which I was shocked. And he even told me he said, you really did a great job with our daughter. But after that, he just disappeared and he never had a relationship or never seen my daughter thereafter. And then last year, that baby that was 30 days and her mother said, well, she reached out and found my daughter on Facebook.
Wow.
And they talked and she remembers her because my daughter did stay with them for about not even a year when I was recovering from drugs and alcohol back then. And because I never would have let her go with him, but I said, since I was going through so much and maybe this would be a good idea. So I let her stay, and then ended up the mother and the daughter were abusing my daughter. So finally something happened. These spiritual things came out of
Mhm.
nowhere. And
Mhm.
he finally, I made him send my daughter back and send her to my sister. And so, but what happened was when her half sister reached out to her to tell her, she said that their dad for almost 30 days went to the hospital because he started having headaches and stayed in the hospital for a month. And one thing after another, he started bleeding from almost every part of his body. And he literally was tortured to death and died. So
Oh, goodness.
yeah. So my daughter went through a lot, and I can't be her therapist, and I wanted her to go see a therapist, but she's strong, and she just decided, Mom, because I didn't really have a relationship with him. So yeah, so I had to really, from the beginning to then finding out this information last year from my daughter, that what had happened to him, I still had love for him in my heart. Yeah, because I
Wow,
wasn't gonna let
Shari.
all of that get to me and bring back up those thoughts of what he did to me when he just, really had a hard time and passed in such a very horrible way.
Oh my goodness. So
I know.
is that why you turned to becoming a therapist?
Part
Is that
of
the main
that,
reason?
yes.
Mhm.
That's a good question because I never really pondered on it. But when I add all of my situations, Dimple, yes, and that one was the major one that really challenged everything in me. Yes, all of that had happened surprisingly, and how I just God made a way for me to find out, which I never should have found out any of that information. No, none of it, especially,
Oh,
yeah.
there is a saying that whatever you do, karma is a bitch. It's gonna bite you back in your ass.
When
And
you don't least expect it. Absolutely.
exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. So, wow, girl, the way you shared your story, I was moved by it that you
Thank
went
you.
through so much.
Yes.
And today you are that light that is shining so brightly. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so proud that you're here today. This is
Thank you.
amazing. And I'm sorry that I have tears in my eyes because I feel like,
Oh,
damn, you
Dimple.
went through so much.
Yeah, I did. But God was always, always, always there. I
Much
cried.
love to you.
Yes. That's why I don't, that's why in our recovery program, there's a saying, do not regret the past and do not shut the door on it. Because when you tell your story, just as I'm telling you, Dimple, you've gotten so emotional. And I love you for that because that's vulnerable, being vulnerable, showing that you have a side of you that even though it didn't happen to you, just listen to someone else. And that's why we tell our stories
Mhm.
for someone else to understand. And I'm still standing. I'm still here. I'm not going nowhere.
God bless you, girl. I am gonna keep going with
Thank
my
you.
questions on this podcast because I got so moved. I'm sorry. Just
Oh,
remembered a lot of things my mom went through, just
yes.
remembering all the women. And sometimes I feel like us women, we
Mhm,
carry so much of trauma within
mhm,
us that other women like you are showing it
mhm.
to us that hey, don't give up.
Don't
Stay
give up.
strong.
Stay
Stay
strong.
strong. And
Hey,
that's what you're showing.
oh,
So
Dimple,
pardon
you're gonna
my
make me
tears.
cry.
Pardon my tears and my laughter both at the same time, but
Yes,
I need to know more. So can you share a
yes.
time when you took a personal inventory of your life?
Mhm,
And how did this self-reflection contribute to your journey
mm,
towards authenticity?
mm. Ooh, thank you, because I don't think of the questions you're asking me. It's like life is in session. Life, so you're dealing with things day to day, work, family, professional, business, just all your religion, your spirituality, connecting, relationships. So when I go back and look over my life and say, what was the pivotal point? It's so many, Dimple. But let me say this. I'm going to tell you, getting and being on drugs, because a woman, especially for a woman to get on drugs and to become an alcoholic or a drug addict is like the lowest point, especially when you didn't start that way. And so let me just explain. When I first started on drugs, and drugs was my point, my main thing there. It wasn't alcohol. I had already started with a 100 Fortune company at the age of 20. I had worked there for 22 years. I had already purchased by myself 2 homes, raising my daughter. I had already received an AA degree, a bachelor's degree, and my first master's degree before
Nice.
I became addicted to one of the worst drugs, which was crack cocaine.
Mm.
That going through that for 5 years and then getting clean, that was when I found who the real authentic Shari was. Because when you're in a program of recovery and going through the 12-step process, which is required of long-term sobriety, you have to be broken down. You have to be stripped of all that falseness, all those things that you thought were the point of why you use drugs and alcohol. it's normally a deeper part of us that creates this, I'm okay to be on drugs. No, nobody wants to go back to their childhood, Dimple, because childhood is normally for addicts and alcoholics the worst period, the darkest period. So they medicate as they get older. That's just like anybody with trauma. You don't know where these symptoms, you don't know where these behaviors are coming from. You just like having sex all the time, or you just like getting abused by men all the time, or you just like giving everything away that you have and not being able to know that I don't have to do that to be fit in or to be loved. That's not being authentic. So when I started the process of recovery, Dimple, my sponsors, other women that were there for me when I got there, they helped me to be who I am today and to be stripped of that fake, false, and phony and the fraudness that I had to be being a drug addict in that world, because it is a world. It's not a healthy, it's not a positive, but it's another world that you would never unless you've been there. So coming out of all of that and then learning and being taught that, Shari, you're more beautiful inside than those things that were not you. So learning, teaching, exploring, researching, because I've always been a researcher. But for those things that weren't not, that was for me. But once I got clean and sober, I started realizing this whole world, this whole universe is for me, but I have to put out what's in, and what's in I have to put out. So, but I have to set boundaries and limitations, because to be authentic means to be what? It means to be real with what I am, not what others think I should be. So the pivotal point, Dimples, was a combination of things. But I think if I were to say and put my finger on that one major thing, because my family raised me, they never drinked and smoked cigarettes. So here I come, right? But just knowing that the way I was raised, and then how things just took a turn, and then how then it took another turn to where and who I am and who I will always be, because now I know without a shadow of a doubt that God has put his light on me. It's always been there, but remember, there were some things going on that I wasn't willing to deal with and let go and disclose. So I had to go through the process of burning out, and to like wheat, you have to take the shaft off.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
That's why, people go through dark night of the soul. And I think you probably went through the
Yes,
dark night of the soul in your
yes,
own way. And
yes.
maybe I would love to know if you can share, how has mindfulness played a role in your personal and professional life now that you're sharing that you went through a period and then you realize that, oh my God, all the steps which I'm doing is not the right thing to do. So can you share with us, what did you do and how did you really come out of it? So our listeners who are currently maybe in bad marriages, maybe they're addicts, maybe they're addicted to something, what can they do just by you sharing your story?
I did some research, and I found that there are some really good strategies out there to start the process of coming out to come in, because everything, Dimple, starts within us. So there's 7 strategies that I found that are really a positive and really constructive way to get to what you're asking. For any woman, that's any man, woman, but we're talking about women right now. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about one that thinks like me, looks like me, have emotions like me, a woman, which God made us to be, that sensitive, that softness, that strength that comes from all of being that. So the first one is to take personal inventory. I kind of brought that up. Personal inventory is looking at my assets and looking at my liabilities. Ooh,
Oh,
do we do that? No, we don't. until we're to the point that our life is spiraling. And somebody might say, you might want to just identify your assets and your liabilities. We're talking about not just inside and not just outside. We're looking at everything that makes us move in the way that we move. If we're moving negative, I need to identify what is going on in my world that I'm doing things that probably are not good for me. And then at the same time, identifying those personal things that cause us to say, okay, these are working for me. These relationships are good for me. So what I need to do is just add up the cost. You ever heard of a cost benefit analysis?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's another way of putting it. And I love that because in my therapy with my clients, that's where I get them to fully understand either you're making some positive decisions or you're making some negative decisions. And these are the consequences because the costs are outweighing the what? The benefits. So taking personal inventory is one. Number two, being present, mindfulness. Here we go. Always when you have learned to shut down the racing thoughts, the chatter, and just being in the moment of where you are right now, what's going on around you. There's a technique that I always use with children, adults, my clients. It's called the STOP technique. S stands for stop, T stands for think, O stands for observe where you are, and P for plan. Wow, just stop. Think, observe, and plan. So but in order to do that, I have to be in the moment. I have to be in the presence. I have to know that being mindful of all of those aspects, what is most important for me to do at just right now. Not what happened yesterday, not what's going to happen tomorrow, because I still don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Just being mindful where I'm at right now. And then moving into, okay, so again, stop technique. So I need to stop, observe, think, mindful, being in the present, and then plan to move into where I need to go to get me where I desire to be.
Wow. I love that. Personal inventory of assets and liabilities, mindfulness, which means using these stop techniques to stop, think, observe, and plan.
And then plan to move into where you want to be. The other strategy, and I'm just going to make this real quick, build your support system. As I talked about, one thing about recovery, we all come together because we do it for ourselves, but we do it together, but we do it for ourselves to stay sober, however that looks. So building a positive social support system, girlfriends, mentors, coaches, however, therapists, whoever that you feel that has your best interest, that motivates you, that encourages you, that tells you when you're not on the right path or you're getting off the path, just to kind of pull you back, because we always need, because there's a saying, when you think you're the smartest person in the room, there's a problem.
You're the dumbest person in the room.
Then you're really the dumbest. So
exactly.
So having people around you, that's build your social. Number 4, speak your truth. Speak your truth, because no one wants a mannequin as being in their space. Speak it assertively, not passive aggressive, not aggressive. And in my life, I'm going to tell you, because I dealt with so many people and dealt with so many different parts of me that struggled, that I would be aggressive, thinking that that's going to get me what I want. Then I had to stop and understand, sure, you're breaking up good relationships with others, because people said you're just too mean, or you're angry. You're an angry Black woman. And just all these negatives of what people perceive me. But so learning to come down in my tone and my my facial expressions, because you don't have to say a word. People can just look at your facial expression and say, "Oh, I don't think I'm gonna like her, or she seems angry, mean." So just being present about how people perceive me, that I know that should not be. but I have to make some changes. I have to learn that, Shari, there's more than one way to communicate. What are communication skills? So I had to go back and really research, what are the 7 communication skills? What are the 5 ones? What do most people know when you communicate? It's nonverbal behaviors or nonverbal cues. It's not what you say. It's not the content. Okay. And then number 5, take daily actions towards being authentic. How do I do that? Taking inventory, looking at how was my day? Did I have any relationship conflicts? Did I not complete things that I said I'm going to do for Shari? Setting my goals and meeting my goals, even if it's one step at a time. Daily planning, committing to what I say I'm going to do for you, for others. That's another one.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Daily
And number
planning.
6, yep, daily planning. So don't just leave things in the air. When you're learning to be a different you or the better you, that means you have to be strategic about it. You have to set things on paper, set things with others, commitments to other people to keep you accountable or to help you to be accountable, because only you can be accountable and responsible to what you say you're going to do. So then 6, take a step back and gain perspective. I really love this one because I do this all day. Because what happens, you get so caught up in the day, in the daily tasks, the daily responsibilities, and you're moving so fast at the end of the night. And this is another thing that the program of recovery teaches you. Take an inventory of your day. Sit back and go back over what you think you did that could have been done better. Things you probably said that could have been said better. The reaction that maybe somebody verbalized to you that, Shar, you could have been just a little bit more smoother about something you did, just reflecting over your day and saying, okay, check, check, check. So tomorrow, if tomorrow be, I'll be able to look at that, my little checklist and say, okay, today I'm going to make sure and be a little nicer, bring my tone down, bring my voice lower down because I can get loud because it's just my anxiety jumping off. And do those things that I know that is going to make me better from within to out. And just keeping that perspective. And then 7, recognize internal forces versus external voices. Not voices, excuse me. External influences, motivators versus internal influences and motivators. So you have you, which is your internal. Then you have the outside world that's outside of you that influences your decisions, your thoughts, your motivations, your actions, and your behaviors. So if those external are creating a conflict for the internal, then I need to start the stop technique and mindful technique and being in a perspective that, okay, I need to make just some adjustments, but I have to be cognizant of what's influencing me, whether it be internal or external. And those are the things that I found that being authentic leads you to being so in love with yourself and being a person that is authentic and I'll say most because there's nothing perfect in this world, but being at the most of the best of yourself. And the last is, there's the saying that I put, it's, let me read that because I came up with it. It's like, okay, Shari, yeah, because I'm always thinking. Lastly, taking the ladder up the stairs to living the authentic life and living your best life in this one life that you have.
Wow, Shari, I love it. I love your 7 steps, and I am going to tell the listeners and recap it for you. So,
Oh,
Shari recommends having a personal inventory
Yep.
of assets and liabilities.
Yes.
Obviously, being mindful. So use the STOP technique, STOP, which is stop,
Yes.
think, observe, and plan.
Yes.
Number three is building your support system.
Yes.
So friends, family, coaches, mentors, therapists.
Therapist.
Number four, hey, speak your truth. Speak your truth, use your voice. Number
Yes.
five, daily actions of being authentic.
Yes.
Number six, take a step back and
Yes.
just gain perspective of your day, of your month, whatever you think you did wrong, and then
Yes.
correct your mistakes and go back in the next day. Lastly,
Absolutely.
recognize internal voices versus external
Yeah. So
situations.
yeah. Well, this external versus internal versus external influences,
Influences.
motivations. So anything internal means those are those things that drives and desires that come from deep within yourself. Like I'm talking about heart dreams that push you to become a better person and pursue your goals. So anything that connects you with self from the inside out. Now, the external motivators are money, prestige, status, recognition, what you've achieved in life, and how your expectations are based on that. So external versus internal, whatever motivates you. What motivates you to be a better person? That should come from internal. What motivates you externally to become the best yoga master instructor? Whatever it is, prestige, status, more yoga businesses or whatever, just to kind of put it in the concept that what your goal is, what your drive, what your desires, what your dreams are. And with me, it's always been to give back, to be able to show women, especially women and children at risk, that no matter what your past has brought you, you still have a future of change that can come, but there needs to be some work. It's not osmosis. Nothing just happens. You have to find out through these 7 strategies how to move yourself up the ladder to the pivotal point of being loving and knowing that no matter what happens on the outside, I control, because my control comes from within.
Inside.
Within.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that, Shari.
Yeah.
Love that. We loved having you on our podcast.
Thank
I
you,
am
Dimple.
so happy that you came on our show today. And last question, how can our
Yes.
audience reach out to you?
Oh, they can either call me on my personal cell. I have no problem with that, which is 323-702-6212, or they can reach me through my professional business email. And the name of my business is, and I've had it over 4 years, and that's another story how I started that, but we'll talk about that later. It's called Essential Peace, PEACE of Mind, MIND, Marriage and Family Therapy Incorporated. And so you can reach either way, it's fine. And I am open to taking clients. I do children, young adults, adults as well, and couples.
All right. So it is essential, ESSENTIAL, peace of mind, marriage, and family therapy.com. So that is her website, or just reach out to her at 323-702-6212 to book any appointments or any questions that you have with Shari. Shari, it was so wonderful to have you on our show. Any last words for us?
Well, first, Dimple, it is so wonderful to meet someone as precious as you are, talking to you from the beginning. I said, this is a cool young lady. And I love meeting especially young people that's on a mission to do good, to have a peace of mind, which is essential in all of us. So thank you. I'm honored to be able to share my strength and my story with you and your listeners as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shari. It's wonderful having you on our show. And listeners, always remember, metamorphosis, not medication. Namaste.
Ooh. Oh, namaste. Thank you.